Welcome to Elevate Women in Tech, Breaking Taboos Around Women's Health series. My guest today is Oana Pasalau, mom, tech freelancer, and parental burnout coach. Having experienced the harsh reality at just 36 years old, when she was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure, essentially early menopause, in an instant, the path she had envisioned for herself, a thriving career, biological children, and perfect family portrait was abruptly derailed. In this episode, Oana will share her very personal experience and emotional toll, the decision to pursue IVF while managing career demands, premature menopause, and how she overcome parental burnout after becoming a mom during COVID. We will also discuss how companies and managers can better support women facing fertility issues and the menopause, whether at a younger or an older age. So first up, Oana, thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited to share your insights and your journey with our audience.
Hi, Kelly. Hi, everyone listening. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm super excited for our discussion today. I think it's going to help a lot of people out there, a lot of women that are going through the same challenges, and hopefully give a ray of optimism and motivation, inspiration to continue the fight.
Perfect. Well, it is such an important topic, so it's great to have you here. So before we go into the topics that are highlighted for today that I've just mentioned, could you share with the Elevate audience an overview as to who you are and what it is that you do, Oana?
I'm Oana. I have been working as a clinical data manager in the pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical disease industries for the past 15 years. And I have navigated some complex changes in these past 15 years, but nothing quite compares to what I now call my awareness revolution that unfolded when my son was born 3 years ago. I went through a very deep identity crisis. It plunged me into a very deep soul-searching quest, and coaching was kind of playing a pivotal role in my transformation. So now I'm also an ICF trained coach. I founded Oana Coaching, and I'm working parents who struggle or are on the brink of parental burnout. And in full transparency and full honesty, I wouldn't have been here today without my diagnosis of premature ovarian failure, so premature menopause, at 36.
Wow. And thank you for sharing that introduction with us. And we're going to talk a lot today about that journey that you went on. And I think for our audience, if it's okay, Oana, let's start at the beginning of that journey and that life-changing diagnosis that you got. So can you walk us through receiving the news at 6 and what it meant to you for your plans on becoming a mother, getting that early diagnosis of premature menopause?
And to give some context, because I think it's quite important to talk about the subject, but also to understand, to raise a bit awareness, right, on some of the symptoms, for example, some of the signs that we can spot along the way in terms of premature menopause. So I was 5.5, I think, when I first had my premature menopause symptoms. So one of them was polymenorrhea. So that's an irregularity that occurs more frequently than the typical cycle. So in my case, that was 14 days. So each 14 days, I got my period. Then I had insomnia, hot flashes, and brain fog. And I remember a feel of anxiety every time that I would have like a hot flash, because I had no idea what that is, and it came like an overflow of heat from inside. And not having experienced it before, it was quite an anxiety rush that I had. So with those symptoms in my backpack, I went to see my GP. And then I went to see my gynecologist. We've done a couple of tests, and the diagnosis was hormonal imbalance due to work-related stress. Practically I was too tired, too fatigued because of the work circumstances, and this is how my body was reacting to it. And what I received as instructions was to slow down, rest, eat healthy, try to relax, and things will come back to normal. Unfortunately, it didn't, because there was something different, right? Hiding beneath the symptoms. So yeah, almost at the same moment, we my husband and I decided to become parents. Decided that we were ready to become parents, and we were trying to get pregnant, and I think 9 months into our tryouts, and my symptoms becoming more and more aggravated, I would say, I went back to my gynecologist, and we've done a different type of set of tests. So the most important was the follicle stimulating hormone test, where it verifies the level of follicles that you have in your ovaries. And then it followed by another one, the antral. Let me see if I get this right. The antral follicle count, again, like testing the ovarian reserve. And this is where my ovarian insufficiency was confirmed. And yeah, it was a very shocking moment, because from being in that mental place where you're trying to become a mom, you're trying to to accomplish an important goal that you have on in your life, to possibly never becoming a mom, and yeah, people telling you directly that you're kind of like the you have golden eggs left. That was kind of a harsh reality, and yeah, it was a very difficult moment, because overnight I was different. It's like you're transitioning without being changed. Nothing changed. It's
Yeah.
just that I was different.
Yeah.
And there was more at a mental level. And I'm sorry. Everything comes back, right? So I'll get now and then I'll get a bit emotional about it. But there was a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of anger mostly at my professional decisions, the choices that I've made throughout the years, that left me really in an empty space. I was empty of everything, eggs included.
Yeah. All of that to process and to take on board, especially at such a young age as well. At 36, to be told that you're going through the perimenopause in effect, and then still obviously wanting to have a family. It must have been so much for you to process and take on board, because I think naturally when I think menopause, I'm thinking 50s and older. And it wasn't until recently, actually, I had a conversation with my own mother about menopause. And she told me that she actually went through early menopause. I think she was 38 when she went through the menopause, and she had to have an hysterectomy and a whole other things. But if I never asked the question, I don't think it would have been a conversation that me and my mother would have had. And you mentioned about symptoms like brain fog. That's definitely something that I feel. And it is quite scary experiencing that, but experiencing that on top of obviously the fact that you were trying for a child as well. It is really sad to hear, but great to hear how you've come through that. And obviously you have had a child, which is great to hear, and how you now support others as well. So from that journey that you went on, obviously getting that life-changing bit of information about being early menopause, how did you then navigate your options and the decision to ultimately pursue the IVF treatment that you went down? And yeah, how did that all work out?
Yeah, so I'm thinking that I want to answer with the end in mind. So I want to kind of give the the learning first, and then explain, because it's super important, and I hope this is the message to take home today, that the way you react in front of what life throws at you is super important. You can have your entire trajectory changed, and that's completely fine. And you can we all know you can freeze, or you can flee, or you can fight.
Yeah.
But there's no yeah, there's no need to do one of each. You can mix it up. You can take whatever action makes you feel like this is the important action that I need to take right now. And so what I would say that before you, as a woman, as a person who's going through premature menopause, um, is important to think of, like, yeah, don't give up, don't surrender. Just, you owe yourself so much, right? But the most important is to, yeah, to do something about it, and just take that decision. Either you give up or you continue. That's the most important part. And for me, in that spare of a moment after receiving the news, and yeah, having grieved the loss of my fertility, it was not very short after I've done a training, Prince 2. I'm not sure if you're
Yeah.
familiar with the methodology.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. So in Prince 2, we have that concept, right? That you always have two choices. You have the choice of doing something and the choice of doing nothing. So I remembered, I don't even know how it came to me one day. And I remember this concept, and I remember that business case where, yeah, in order to take a decision, you need to understand if the project is viable or not, and if it's worth pursuing. And yeah, for me, the do nothing option at that moment was not an option. So I needed to do something. And for that, yeah, I went back to my gynecologist. We discussed the options. I got to go to a fertility clinic, and this is where I started my research phase. I got exposed to, yeah, to the entire plan, what happened, understanding the procedure, understanding the risk, the success rates, very important discussion, and then also the financial support. And to be honest, here in Belgium, we are very lucky to have this support from the government. So that was very much welcome. But I think in the end, yeah, every infertility or fertility journey, I would say, is unique, and the choices are also unique. So yeah, I think important would be to identify um, the pursue whatever feels right to you, and make peace with your decision, because otherwise it's going to haunt you, it's going to eat you up. So that is something that I look back and I say, yeah, that's the best decision that I could have taken then, and I'm super happy with all the steps that I have done since then. Even with, you already know it, the parental burnout, the identity crisis, and everything that shifted afterwards. Yeah.
Completely agree. And for any of our listeners that are maybe unfamiliar with the IVF process, or for those that might be on that journey or considering that as an option for them for a fertility process, can you give us a window into what the IVF process was for you, what it was truly like, beyond just the clinical aspects of that, and if possible, the physical and emotional tolls that came up with that journey that you went on?
Yeah, sure. So from everything, I think the emotional roller coaster of hope, of the point that actually accompanies each IVF cycle, is the most impactful toll from my fertility journey. So without minimizing, right, the physical toll, because you still have to inject the hormones, you still need to go to the clinic and do blood tests every other day. There's a lot. There's a lot physically, but the mental toll was for me quite heavy. Yeah, you might be surrounded by people that support you. You have a partner that supports you. You have a support group, your friends, the women in your life, but you're still alone in this journey, right? So when I think about that, there are like three moments that define the emotional toll, and how this impacted me throughout my infertility journey. And the first one starts in the fertility clinic lobby. The first time I was there, and there were so imagine this: there are 20 chairs in the room. All 20 chairs are occupied. There are like young women, not so young women, but we are all there because we need help, right? And the feel of the room is completely different from the one that you would imagine. Like, okay, we are here to get help. We are here to support, to get support. So you would imagine that everybody is there in a supportive way, right? But no, the air is different. The air is full of guilt and shame. So everybody is watching the floor. Nobody's talking to each other. So what I felt in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm kind of like in a fertility prison. I'm here, I'm doing time because I'm not fertile, right? So directly in that moment, I was struck by the fact that, okay, Oana, you're on your own. And I got a bit frustrated, like, okay, why aren't we doing something? Why, yeah, where is the shoulder that I was supposed to cry on, right? And you try to engage with people, and sometimes you get some, some information back, like little shots of, okay, what happened, what is your journey, but not so much. The second one, the second memory, is me sitting at the fertility clinic secretarial room, and you enter there, and you're going to sit on a chair, and in front of you you have two walls covered in baby pictures. Baby pictures that are success stories from other women, right? So directly you're confronted with comparison, like, oh my God, look, there are so many success cases, but what guarantees that mine will be successful as well? So I remember sitting in that room, and each time there was something popping up and the person in front of me needed to go away, and I was alone with those two walls full of pictures. And yeah, I'm thinking like, Wanna be positive, you're hopeful, you have a good team behind you, and it's going to be okay. And there's a feel of insensitivity and a lack of empathy that kind of transpires from the simple fact of having that in front of you. Because all the time I was telling myself, Juana, you'll never hold a baby in your arms. And maybe this is also because of everything that I have learned throughout my journey as a clinical data manager, right? You need to be practical, and you need to have the right expectations in going through this journey. So that was one of the hardest moments in my entire journey, going into that secretarial room. And then the third one, the final one, is waking up from it was my second IVF round. So going through the follicle extraction surgery, and then the doctor telling me that, I'm sorry, Juana, we were unable to find the two eggs that showed up on the scan just 45 minutes ago, and that we've lost the two eggs. And just like, this is a positive story in the end, because I was actually pregnant at that moment without anybody knowing. So this is why we were not finding the eggs. Waking up to hearing that, and actually wanting to scream, like, why, and how is this possible? Why is it happening to me? But not being able to do so, because just 1 hour after the surgery, I was expected to be in a professional call at work. So from my hospital bed, I was working. So if I need to look back, it's just a balance between the outside elements, how you're being bombarded by people trying to go through the journey alone, or in your face comparison with other successful stories, or simply yes, wait, you still have a life, you're still a professional, you still need to continue your work, and you don't really have the time to go through all the emotions that come with all the actions that you're taking. So yeah, this is more or less what happened from an emotional perspective.
Well, I just wanted to say, I mean, thank you for sharing that with me, with the audience. I think you're immensely brave to be able to talk about your experience and how things were. And I think that is the whole purpose around the series that I'm looking to create, is to try and educate, for us to talk and to, I say normalize. And when I say normalize, it's more around sharing that journey of what it's like, because I think for women that have to go through an IVF process, like you said there, after you had that second operation, you were back at work in an hour and you'd had that heartbreaking news and everything else. And then you're expected to just turn it back on and put the game face on, and you're back in that professional environment. And I think the more we can talk about this, we can get other women to understand what they're going to go through if they choose that route, or potentially what they could go through, because obviously it is different for everybody. For companies to be more aware. So if you are someone who is in a leadership position and you're managing people and they're going through this journey, to have that empathy, to have that supportiveness, to be able to support them on that journey. And, for companies to just be a bit more aware of how challenging, and it is pretty brutal what you have to go through, the physical toll, the mental toll, and then being able to kind of run your usual day-to-day life as well. There's just so much going on. So yeah, I think it's really brave of you, and thank you for sharing. You mentioned a little bit there about work, and obviously for your path to motherhood, that journey that you went on through the IVF process. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges or lack of support systems that you encountered whilst navigating IVF through your tech career, your actual career at the same time? And so those companies that might be listening in, or those that can make influential changes in their organisation, to be more aware of how they could just be more supportive.
Yeah, and in full transparency, this is what I'm about to say is something that I have noticed also throughout my motherhood. So since I become a mom, and yeah, being exposed to a different range of feelings, of challenges, I feel like the myth of a superwoman is one of the most detrimental that we can encounter at work, in our professional sphere, in our personal and professional sphere, and also in our social circles. So the superwoman myth, that the one that implies, or that expectation that we have to do everything by perfection, and just putting that pressure on us, right, to deliver, that's such a big misconception. That's something that nobody is telling you, right, that you're no longer the same person. You know that you're no longer the same person physically, and mentally you're different, right? But the expectations are still the same. So throughout my fertility journey, my manager was aware of the situation, so I opened up directly to her, because there was, I mean, from a practical perspective, I needed her to be on board. I needed to be every other day, as mentioned, needed to go to the clinic, blood tests and everything, the operations. So she needed to be aware in terms of my calendar, my schedules. So she was on board, and she was very, very, very supportive. I think I couldn't have expected a different or a better, I would say, a better result from my discussion with my then manager.
Yeah.
But one person is not enough, I would say. I opened up to a lot of people in my at work, so colleagues and people that I was working with, because I was handling a bunch of projects with important deliveries, and I needed to reorganize everything around those those visits to the hospital. But there was still the pressure to deliver. I mean, I was nothing changed from a mental capacity of delivering. Nothing changed. I was still, fully capable of delivering results and being there, managing the teams and managing the deliveries. So the only kind of felt like, okay, you are infertile. You need to do your fertility journey, but in the same time you still need to deliver. You still need to be the professional that you were before. So yeah, I think on one hand you have an ally, people around you at work that can support, the mental journey through IVF, but yeah, the pressure is still there on the other hand. I mean, in the end it's all about the business, right? That doesn't change it.
Yeah. Would you say for women that might be going through that journey, it sounds like obviously you had a very supportive manager, which I think can obviously change anyone's journey when they're going through something that's hard and life changing. But if you feel comfortable enough, would you say that opening up to your manager and being as open and as transparent, given the fact that that you are going on quite a big journey, because like you said, you were still able to deliver, but because you were able to open up, you could then set that expectation of, right, well, I'm still Oana, I'm still here, I can still do my job, but I need a few conditions to be able to make that happen, and as a team we need to come together. Would you say that that's the best approach, or would there be something else that you would add to that, for anyone that's about to start the journey or in that journey and they're struggling right now?
Yeah, I would change some things. The most important step, I would still do it. So I would still open up to my manager. I think that's the most important thing that you can do in the given circumstances. You need an ally, right?
Yeah.
I mentioned that already. You need an ally in the professional space, and you need people to understand, because otherwise that you'll get extra guilt from missing deadlines maybe, or having to reschedule meetings, or run from one meeting to another and giving blood in the interim, right? So I think opening up, yeah, I would 100% recommend it. Setting up that expectation of yourself still being able to deliver at the same level, that was not okay. That was not normal. But again, that's you're kind of going with the flow. So I would bend, yeah, taking a break, taking a step back, and
Yeah.
analyzing a bit, okay, how is this impacting me as a person, and how is this impacting me as a professional, and then making a decision based on that. Because going full speed ahead with extra weight added on your backpack, that's not healthy.
No.
And that is something that I would change if I would have the the option to go back.
You was to do it all again. Okay, perfect. I mean,
Yes.
obviously, for your personal journey, you obviously got the outcome that you wanted. It's congratulations, and you managed to
Thank you.
have your was it a son that you had? Yeah, or was it? Did you have a boy?
Yes, a
Yeah,
son.
you've
A
got your
son.
son, so you was
A
able
little
to.
boy of
So you went through that journey, but obviously when you went through that journey and your son's 3, there was a big thing that happened in the world 3 years ago, and the world pretty much came to that whole lockdown with COVID. So even though you had probably one of the most joyous times of your life being able to have a child, I know then that you then went on and you're very candid about speaking about the parental burnout that you experienced, and having a child then in COVID lockdown times. So after achieving that dream that you set yourself out about becoming a mom, would you be able to explain to our audience what parental burnout looked like and felt like for you? Because I think sometimes when people talk about burnout, they don't really realize that they're there until after the point, and that can be quite a prolonged time that people can sit within that space, and it's a very hard space to be. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind explaining how that felt and what it looked like for you, it might help someone else today.
yes. And by all means, don't do how I've done it. Don't go the same path, please. So I mentioned that practically I have not taken the time to grieve my infertility. I mean, yeah, that being in that space where you're crying and you're analyzing everything and then taking the decision. But it feels like after I have become a mom, I rushed again. Instead of taking the time and taking care of myself, I rushed again. And this time I rushed towards parental burnout, and it caught me 100% off guard, because nothing is set in stone for parents, right? So for those who are not familiar with the term parental burnout, this is a condition which is characterized by physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. So, and this comes from the chronic stress related to parenting. So does this happen, and most precisely, how did it happen in my case? So first of all, I have not allowed myself to rest. We moved houses just 1 week after Luca was born, so after my son was born. So instead of resting, really enjoying my time as a fresh new mom, and recovering from a very hard delivery. I was unpacking boxes. I was organizing the furniture. I was organizing deliveries, decorating, cleaning, everything else except resting.
Yeah.
Then the second point that contributed to my parental burnout was the fact that I live in Belgium. We might laugh, but as a freelancer in Belgium, you only get 8 weeks of maternity leave, paid weeks of maternity leave. So I had to take 4 before the birth, and I only had 4 left after the birth. And of course, the financial pressure that lies above a freelancer's head is super important. So yeah, I returned to work 4 weeks into giving birth, and that was not healthy either. And I think the most important of them all is the ridiculous high expectations that I had from that Superwoman myth, right? That I can do it all. Nothing changed. Again, nothing changed. I'm still Oana. I'm still super strong. Mentally super strong. I have not forgotten anything about data management, so I'm just going to continue as I left off. I'm still Oana. I'm still fit, and I can do, I can cook, I can clean, I can do everything by myself, and also breastfeed a baby. Also, not sleep at night and continue throughout the day as if I would have had the 8 hour sleep. So all in all, as you can see, like really small things, very important things that can take you away from a healthy relationship with your body and with your mind. So in the end, I felt, and that was the trigger for me realizing that there was something wrong. I felt like a stranger. So I was becoming a stranger to myself. So that emotional disconnection was for me one of the indicators that something is not okay. So one day, and it was in end of 2022, beginning of 2023, I just typed. I was working. Trying chat at that moment, so I typed all the symptoms that I felt, and like the emotional disconnection, the exhaustion that I felt. Like I couldn't put things together. I started really thinking that, okay, why have I chosen to become a mom, and how is this going to help me in the long run? I had no plans. Nothing made sense anymore. So I typed all that in ChatGPT. And yeah, I guess what came? Parental burnout. And then suddenly, okay, this is important. I think as soon as I had a name for everything that was happening to me,
Yeah.
I already felt much better, because okay, now I have a plan. Now I know what I need to do. Let's learn everything about it, right? What happens? What are the why is this happening? What are the symptoms? What are the implications? What are the first steps that I can take towards going away from this nothing zone that I feel for the moment? So yeah, that was more or less how I got to parental burnout.
I can't believe that you use ChatGPT to find your answer. It just shows how we can use technology to help us. And I think, for you finding that this is what it is and that realization maybe of where you were, to help find that plan to move you forward. I think for anyone that's listened to what you've just said and thinking, actually, I can recognize those symptoms, I can recognize some of the things that Oana's saying in themselves. What advice would you give to those women on, regaining the balance or resetting boundaries?
So an important thing to know is that parental burnout is temporary. So you can find coping strategies to help you manage it. I'm not going to lie, because I don't feel like you ever can overcome it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm always on that walking like a borderline path. Like there are moments, and I think we discussed a bit about it just before we recorded this, but you always feel like, okay, I'm drifting towards parental burnout. Okay, this is what I need to do. These are the steps that I'm taking to get in that balance zone, and making sure that I'm not going down the rabbit hole. So there are important things that we can do not to get there, but also some steps that we can take to avoid that we are going back to parental burnout. And I think the one of the most important is communication. Talk with your partner, with your family, with your friends, with your colleagues, because that overload is it's so therapeutic. And if you don't feel like talking, journal it.
Yeah.
Because again, it's you're getting rid of everything that happens in your body, in your brain. So this is super important. Realistic expectations and setting yourself towards that is super important as well. Nobody is telling us to be the perfect mom, the perfect wife, or the perfect partner, or the perfect colleague. Nobody's doing that except for ourselves. So that is super important. Listen, or try to take a step back and see, okay, what am I doing too much?
Yeah.
To what am I not saying no?
Yeah.
And I'm adding burden on myself.
I think that learning to say
Yeah.
no, we spoke about this literally just before we started recording, is definitely something that I've learned a lot. And I think once you've been in a burnout situation, I think then you can start to spot when you're potentially heading back into similar sort of territory at whatever point further down the line. So yeah, the learning to say no is definitely something I'm personally working on in my day life, and I couldn't agree with you more. No one's perfect, and I think we have this vision from things that we watch on telly, the movies, social media, that women have to be perfect, or you have to be this perfect mom. And hey, reality is that is just not the case. If getting out of bed one day and just surviving the day is your idea of perfect, then that is your perfect. If it's getting out of bed and for the day, getting yourself all made up and doing whatever, it's what it is for you in that moment. And I think so much pressure is put on women, on moms, particularly first time moms, because you just don't really know what to expect. I think that is some brilliant advice. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing.
I also wanted to say something regarding the self-care, because that was something that I completely push aside. Who has time, right, to go to the gym or go for a swim when you have a small baby in your arms? But this is so important, so important. I couldn't stress more on the importance of self-care. It's not selfish.
No.
People who will point out like, oh, you're here swimming while your baby is at home with your mother-in-law. Shame on them. Shame on them.
Yeah.
Because it's not selfish. It's your sanctuary of healthiness, your sanctuary of mental well-being. So go for it.
Yeah, it's finding that you time to do whatever it is that makes you happy. If it's finding somewhere quiet to go and read a book, going to the hair salon, whatever it is, to have that moment, because at the end of the day, you are still a person. You need that self time. So yeah, couldn't agree more with you there. And if we pull back the curtains around some of the biggest misconceptions or taboos surrounding reproductive health topics like infertility, IVF, menopause, postpartum struggles, what would you say are some of the biggest taboos or misconceptions?
I was ignorant to start with for infertility, and it's quite funny because one of the biggest taboos that I've encountered is like infertility is always a woman's issue, but when I started the journey, I thought it was my husband's problem, not mine. So this is completely out of the pattern, right? But you hear that from the discussion that you have around you that it has to be a woman's issue, right? Because you're the one who's producing all the eggs. So infertility being a woman's issue. So the second taboo is that IVF guarantees a pregnancy, which is absolutely incorrect. During the discussions with the fertility doctor, you are going to find out that the procedure is really dependent on the age. So the success ranges in function of your age. So for me at 36, I would have had like a 30% chances with each egg that was implanted during the insemination. So the chances are quite very, very low.
Yeah.
There's a big hurdle there, right? Then for the menopause, I think one of the most frequent questions that I got from people around me is that are you still sexually active? So menopause does not end your sexually active life.
Life just finishes.
Although your the hormonal imbalance plays a major factor in it, and maybe you're not going to find yourself very open to the idea of having sex, but it's not the end of your sexual life. No. And then that the and something that I have noticed with regards to postpartum goals, something that I have noticed around in my group of friends, is that these are just baby blues, and that's 100% incorrect as well. Postpartum depression is very, very severe and encompasses healthy issues. I think it's important to focus on the relationship that we have with ourselves and also open up, because there are a lot of the friends that I have around me experienced one or two symptoms of postpartum depression. So very important to open up about it.
Definitely. And again, it's another topic that's just not spoken about. And so many women do struggle. And like you said, it is more than just the baby blues. And actually, if we can talk, be more open, normalize those conversations, then so many women would get so much more help. And hopefully, it would help them come out of the situation that they're in a more positive way. So, we are going to be talking about postpartum depression that's coming up in the series as well. So I think it'll be one for people to listen into if that's something that's of interest for you. We're right at the end of the show now. So thank you so much for sharing everything. It's been a fantastic conversation. I think the final thing that I would like to finish on is a bit of probably your perspective as to what you think is the most important thing for any employers or managers who are trying to truly support the reproductive health needs of their employees. What can they do?
So I think you already answered the question, the support, right? creating the sometimes the most effective ways to go through very challenging topics is just show the support. And how do you do that? You create a supportive workplace. You enable open discussions, right? You foster an environment where employees feel comfortable to discuss about their personal issues. Reproductive health issues. That's super, super personal, right?
Yeah.
But without having that fear of being judged, about not having that fear of people looking at you differently than just a second ago before you opened up about your infertility, helps. And if it's I don't know, if it's normalizing and opening up, right, bringing things that are quite important to you in your personal life, bringing them to your professional space. And I don't know, in the team meetings, maybe allocate some time where you make a check on your mental state. Give the space for the mental offload, right? That would be something that would change massively the entire workplace space. And then, if possible, to get that education and training. And there are so many programs now that offer awareness on different topics, ranging from the mental well-being to physical well-being. So why not offer that to your employees? I think lastly, I would add getting support on your career development, because if you are going through infertility, if you're going through motherhood, parental burnout, this can have a serious impact on how you are seeing your professional future. So you have been working with the same person for, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, let's say, the capacity, the skills, and suddenly, because that person is going through a personal challenge, the efficiency of that person is maybe dropping. So just have that open discussion, and knowing that you have other options for your career can be very, very important.
Brilliant. Some really great advice in there. And I think for anyone listening in that is in that people leader role, hopefully there's some takeouts there that you might be able to take back and just be more mindful of, more aware of, even if your company doesn't offer those specific programs. As a manager, this is the steps. It's those little steps that people take that then leads to bigger things. So and I think, in a lot of organizations, once one person starts doing something, others then see the benefits, and then it's that ripple effect. So I think the more we can do to support in many different areas, I think the better. That's everything then. So thank you for those that have listened today. Oana, for anyone that would like to connect with you personally, learn more about the parental burnout, the coaching services that you offer, what would be the best way for this to happen?
So I'm very much present on LinkedIn. You guys will find my entire journey there. I have no secrets whatsoever. You'll also see a bunch of pictures or baby pictures. But LinkedIn is the place to find me. Thank you.
Perfect. And we will share that in the show notes so people can connect with you as well. And that's it. Apart from thanking you again for sharing that very personal reproductive health journey, by peeling back the curtain, you've illustrated just how many hurdles women face when it comes to fertility, menopause, balancing work and family, and simply prioritizing their well-being. So your story makes clear that there's still a lot of work for us to do when it comes to destigmatizing these conversations, updating workplace policies, and ensuring women have the resources and support systems they need throughout all of their major life actions. This is another episode of Elevate Women in Tech, breaking taboos on women's health, and catch us again next time for more empowering stories and perspectives.